I never thought my own parents would try to steal from me. Not just any possession, but the one place that held my heart, my history, and my grandmother's memory. What I did next wasn't easy, but it exposed a truth about my family I never wanted to see, and it blew our world apart. My name is Amanda Peterson, and at 35, I certainly never imagined my own family would push me to this point. The country house my grandmother left me wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was my sanctuary, my escape, the only place I felt truly at home. So when I overheard my parents planning to sell it off, all for my pregnant sister, Cassandra, something inside me just snapped. In that moment, I made a decision that would forever change our family dynamic. Let me tell you how it all unfolded. Growing up, my grandmother, Eliza, was my absolute rock. My parents were always wrapped up in my youngest sister, Cassandra, the golden child. But Grandma Eliza, she showed me what true, unconditional love felt like. Every summer, from the age of 8 until 17, I'd spend 3 months at her charming farmhouse. We'd tend to her vegetable garden, bake her famous apple pies, and sit on the wraparound porch, listening to her stories. During those precious summers, she instilled in me the importance of independence and standing up for myself. Amanda, she'd say, her weathered hands gently folding mine, never let anyone take advantage of your kind heart, not even family, especially family. Back then, I just thought it was general wisdom, sweet advice. I had no idea how profoundly prophetic those words would become. The house itself was a beautiful, 3-bedroom farmhouse built in the 1940s, sitting on 2 acres of land, about 90 minutes from the city where I worked as a real estate agent. It had solid oak beams, hardwood floors that creaked in all the right, nostalgic places, and windows that captured the morning light perfectly. The property included a small apple orchard, a space for a vegetable garden, and a detached garage that Grandma had lovingly converted into a studio for her painting hobby. When Grandma Eliza passed away 5 years ago, I was heartbroken. She was 88, and while her death wasn't unexpected, the pain of losing her hit me harder than I could have imagined. During the reading of her will, I was genuinely surprised to learn she had specifically left the country house to me, along with a deeply personal letter. My dearest Amanda, it read, I am leaving this house to you because you are the only one who truly loves it as I did. I have watched you connect with this land since you were a little girl. This house has stories in its walls, and I know you will honor them and add your own chapters. This is not just a piece of property. It is a piece of who you are. My parents seemed supportive at first. They had their own comfortable home in the suburbs and had never shown much interest in the old country place, as they called it. My sister, Cassandra, 28 and always the family's darling, was too focused on city life to care about a house that wasn't within walking distance of shopping mall. Over the past 5 years, I poured my heart, soul, and a significant portion of my savings into preserving and improving that property. I updated the plumbing and electrical systems, restored the original hardwood floors, and replanted the garden using the heirloom seeds Grandma had saved. Every weekend I could manage, I'd drive out Friday evening and return Sunday night, my spirit totally recharged by the peace I found there. The contrast between my sister and me couldn't have been more stark. While I built a stable career as a real estate agent, eventually becoming one of the top sellers at my firm, Cassandra bounced between jobs, relationships, and even departments, never quite finding her footing. Our parents constantly made excuses for her free spirit and artistic temperament, while my practical nature and work ethic were simply expected, never truly celebrated. Your sister is sensitive, my mother would say whenever Cassandra quit another job because her boss didn't understand her. Meanwhile, my 60-hour work weeks and professional achievements were met with brief nods and quick subject changes. Despite this glaring imbalance, I maintained a cordial relationship with my family. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were a monthly tradition, though I often felt more like an observer than a participant, as conversations inevitably centered around Cassandra's latest drama or my parents' social circle. Everything changed 3 months ago when Cassandra announced she was pregnant. Her boyfriend, Tyler, whom she'd been dating for just under a year, sat uncomfortably at the dinner table as my sister shared the news. My parents were initially shocked, then quickly transitioned to absolutely ecstatic about their first grandchild. "This changes everything," my mother declared, squeezing Cassandra's hand. "You two need to start preparing for this baby." I offered my genuine congratulations, though I had private concerns about my sister's readiness for parenthood, given her unstable lifestyle. Those concerns proved warranted. Over the following weeks, the couple's living situation became a frequent topic. "They cannot possibly stay in that tiny one-bedroom apartment with a baby," my mother fretted during one Sunday dinner. "Rent is so expensive these days," my father added, looking meaningfully in my direction. "It's hard for young people starting out." I sensed the conversation was heading toward an ask for financial help, which wouldn't be the first time. Over the years, I'd loaned Cassandra money for various emergencies, none of which had ever been repaid. Given my stable income, I had already resigned myself to the likelihood of being asked to contribute to my future niece or nephew's needs. What I did not anticipate was how far my family would go in their expectations. It was during one of our Sunday family dinners, about 2 months after Cassandra's pregnancy announcement, that I accidentally stumbled upon their plan. I had excused myself to use the bathroom and was walking back down the hallway when I heard my father's voice from the kitchen. "I think we should list the country property next month. Spring is the best time to sell, and we could get top dollar in this market." I froze mid-step, thinking at first he must be discussing one of his own investment properties. My father had dabbled in real estate over the years, though he had always refused my professional advice. "Do you think Amanda will fight us on it?" my mother responded, her voice hushed but clear enough for me to hear. The mention of my name sent a shiver down my spine. They couldn't possibly be talking about my house. The house that was legally mine, left to me in my grandmother's will, which I had been maintaining and improving with my own money for 5 years. "She has to understand," my father continued. "Cassandra is starting a family. She needs her own place, not some cramped apartment. Besides, Amanda doesn't even live there full-time. It's just sitting empty most of the week." I felt my hands begin to shake as the horrifying reality of their conversation sank in. They were planning to sell my house, my inheritance, my sanctuary, without even discussing it with me, as if it were a communal family asset rather than my personal property. "We should bring it up after dessert," my mother suggested. "Emphasize how important this is for the baby. Amanda has always been reasonable." By reasonable, I knew she meant compliant. The perfect daughter who never caused trouble, who went along with family decisions without protest. The reliable one who could always be counted on to sacrifice for her sister, as I had been doing my entire life. I must have made some small sound because the conversation abruptly stopped. Gathering myself, I walked into the kitchen with what I hoped was a neutral expression. "Need any help with dessert, Mom?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "No, Dee. Just getting the coffee ready. Go sit down. We'll be right there." I returned to the dining room where Cassandra was showing Tyler something on her phone. Both were laughing. My sister looked up at me with a smile that now seemed calculating rather than warm. "Everything okay, sis? You look weird." "Just tired from work," I replied, taking my seat. When my parents returned with coffee and my mother's apple pie, I waited. A part of me still desperately hoped I had misheard or misunderstood, that they couldn't possibly be planning what I thought they were. My father cleared his throat after serving the pie. "Amanda, we wanted to discuss something important with you. It's about your grandmother's house." "My house," I corrected quietly. He blinked momentarily, clearly thrown off script. "Yes, well, technically," he began, "but we've been thinking about Cassandra's situation." My mother jumped in, her voice taking on that syrupy tone she used when trying to persuade someone. "Your sister is going to have a baby, Amanda. They need space, a proper home to raise a child. And I prompted, a coldness settling deep in my chest. "And we think the most sensible solution would be to sell the country house," my father stated plainly. "It would provide enough money for a down payment on a nice apartment for Cassandra and Tyler. Something with 2 bedrooms in a good school district." I stared at them, waiting for some flicker of acknowledgement of the sheer audacity of what they were proposing. None came. "That house belongs to me," I said slowly. "Grandma left it to me in her will. I've been paying the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance. I've put thousands of dollars of my own money into renovations. And no one is saying you haven't done a lovely job with it," my mother rushed to add. "But be practical, Amanda. You only go there on weekends. Your sister needs a home every day." "So, buy her one," I replied, my voice hardening. "Why does it have to be my house that gets sold?" "Because we don't have that kind of money just sitting around," my father snapped, his reasonable facade cracking slightly. "This is about family, helping family." "Your sister is pregnant," my mother added, as if I could have somehow forgotten this fact. "Don't you care about your niece or nephew growing up in a good environment?" I turned to look at Cassandra, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange. She met my gaze with a mix of entitlement and a chilling challenge. "I already started thinking about how I'd set up the nursery," she said, a casual smile playing on her lips. "The second bedroom gets such good morning light. It will be perfect." The casual way she spoke about my space, the room where I kept my grandmother's quilts and my own painting supplies, ignited something fierce within me. They had already been planning this, discussing it, making decisions, all without a single word to me until now. "Let me get this straight," I said, setting down my coffee cup carefully to hide the trembling of my hands. "You want me to give up the house my grandmother specifically left to me, that I have lovingly maintained for 5 years, so you can sell it and give the money to Cassandra for an apartment?" "Not give up," my father corrected. "You would get a portion of the proceeds, too, of course." "How generous," I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "And did anyone consider asking me before making these plans? Or did you just assume I would go along with it, as always?" "Amanda," my mother's tone took on an edge. "Don't be difficult. This is what families do. They support each other." "Support goes both ways, Mom," I shot back, the words tumbling out. "When is anyone in this family supported for what I want, what I need?" A tense silence fell over the table. This was not how our family operated. Open conflict was avoided, particularly when it came to Cassandra getting her way. Tyler, looking deeply uncomfortable, finally spoke up. "Maybe we should discuss this another time, when everyone is calmer." "There's nothing to discuss," I said, standing up. "The house is mine. I will not be selling it. Not now. Not ever." "Amanda," my mother gasped. "Sit down. We're not finished." I replied, grabbing my purse. "Thank you for dinner." As I headed for the door, my father called after me. "Think about it. Family has to come first." I paused with my hand on the doorknob. That's exactly what I'm doing. I left without another word. The slam of the door behind me punctuated my exit in a way that was deeply out of character for the accommodating daughter I had always been. As I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, I realized they had fully expected me to eventually agree. After all, I always had before. Not this time. The next weekend, I drove to the country house with a heaviness in my heart I had never associated with this place before. For 5 years, crossing the threshold of the old farmhouse had always brought an immediate sense of peace. Now, as I unlocked the door and stepped inside, I felt the weight of my family's betrayal accompanying me. I walked through each room, slowly taking in details I had come to love. The kitchen with its vintage 1952 mint green refrigerator that I had specially restored. The living room with the stone fireplace where my grandmother and I had spent countless evenings playing cards and talking about life. The master bedroom where I had carefully preserved the hand-carved bed frame my grandfather had made as a wedding gift for my grandmother. Out on the wraparound porch, I sat in my grandmother's rocking chair and tried to imagine this place belonging to strangers. The thought brought physical pain. This house was not just wood and nails and property value. It was memories and connection, and the only place where I truly felt my grandmother's presence. My phone had been buzzing consistently since I left my parents' house the previous Sunday. I had responded minimally, sending only brief texts, assuring them I was fine but needed space. Now, as I sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, My mother called again. Amanda, she began without preamble when I answered. I wish you would stop this sulking. We are trying to have a serious family discussion. There's nothing to discuss, I replied, keeping my voice even. This is my house. I am not selling it. Your sister is in tears, she countered, wielding the weapon that had always worked before. Cassandra's tears had been the trump card in our family dynamics since childhood. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, surprising myself with my lack of usual guilt. But that does not change my decision. Your father has already spoken to a realtor friend of his, she continued, pushing. He says we could list next week. The casual way she mentioned this sent a fresh wave of shock through me. Without my permission? Mom, I'm the legal owner. Only I can sell this house. Don't be technical, Amanda, she sighed, exasperated. This is a family matter. No, it's a legal matter, and I am telling you clearly, I will not be selling my house. The conversation ended with my mother's frustrated huff and a click as she hung up on me. That was only the beginning. Throughout the weekend, the calls and texts continued. My father sent links to apartments he thought would be perfect for Cassandra, along with notes about how much they would cost. My sister sent photos of baby furniture with captions like, "This crib would look so cute in the upstairs bedroom." By Sunday evening, as I was preparing to return to the city, I received the most shocking message yet. My father texted, "We have arranged an open house for next Saturday. Please make sure the place is tidy." I called him immediately. "You did what?" "Now, Amanda," he began in his placating tone. "We just thought we'd get the ball rolling. People are very interested in country properties right now." "Cancel it," I said firmly. "You have no right to show my house to anyone. We still have a spare key from when we helped you move some furniture last year," he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "So, don't worry about being there. We will handle everything." The realization that my parents had been accessing my property without my knowledge or consent was the final straw. This had gone beyond mere entitlement to something that felt dangerously close to theft. I ended the call and immediately called my friend Stephanie, who had been my confidant through many family dramas over the years. "They did what?" she exclaimed after I explained the situation. "Amanda, that is not just inconsiderate. It is illegal. They cannot sell property that does not belong to them." "I know," I sighed, "but they don't seem to care about that minor detail." "What are you going to do?" I stared out at the darkening sky, the first stars beginning to appear. "I don't know yet, but I'm not going to let them take this from me." "Good," Stephanie said firmly. "It's about time you stood up to them. They have been taking advantage of your good nature for years." After we hung up, I sat for a long time, thinking about my options. I could change the locks, but that would only be a temporary solution. I could confront my parents again, but they had already shown they were unwilling to listen to reason. I could involve lawyers, but the thought of legal action against my own family made me sick to my stomach. As I drove back to the city that night, an idea began to form. It was extreme, perhaps even a bit vindictive, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like my only option for taking control of the situation. I was a real estate agent. If anyone was going to sell my house, it would be me, and it would be on my terms, not theirs. The decision settled in my mind like a weight being lifted. By the time I reached my apartment, I knew exactly what I was going to do. My parents wanted to sell my house for Cassandra. Fine. But they were about to learn a harsh lesson about making assumptions about my compliance. Monday morning, I went straight to my broker's office. "Darren," I said as I sat down across from him, "I want to list my own property, and I need it to happen fast." The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. As one of the top agents at my firm, I knew exactly how to position the property for a quick sale. I called in favors from photographers, stagers, and listing specialists. By Wednesday, professional photos showcasing the charming character of the farmhouse and the beauty of the surrounding land were ready. I carefully crafted the listing description myself. Historic farmhouse with modern amenities, set on 2 acres of landscape grounds, including established apple orchard, original hardwood floors, stone fireplace, and handcrafted details throughout. Updated kitchen and bathrooms, new roof, and completely rewired. 90 minutes from downtown. Perfect weekend retreat or year-round residence for those seeking peace without sacrificing comfort. I deliberately priced it slightly below market value, knowing this would generate immediate interest. While I wanted a quick sale, I was not desperate enough to give the property away. The current market for country homes was strong, with city dwellers increasingly looking for escape properties within commuting distance. My broker, Darren, raised an eyebrow at my urgency, but asked few questions. We had worked together long enough for him to trust my judgment, even if he sensed there was more to the story than I was sharing. Any special requests for showing protocols? He asked as we finalized the listing agreement. Yes, I replied. No public open houses. Qualified buyers only, with proof of funds or pre-approval. And I want to personally approve every showing. This would allow me to control who saw the property and when, drastically reducing the chances of my parents or sister finding out prematurely. I had been deliberately vague in my communications with them over the past few days. Not outright lying, but certainly not volunteering information about my plans. When my father texted asking if I had come to my senses yet, I simply replied that I was thinking things through. When my mother called to say their realtor friend wanted to come by on Thursday to take measurements, I told her I had a client at the house that day and it wouldn't be possible. Not untrue, as I would indeed be there with a photographer. The listing went live on Friday morning, marked as private, so it would be visible only to agents and their clients, not on public websites where my family might stumble across it. By noon, we had 6 showing requests. I carefully scheduled these for Saturday, knowing my parents would be at a charity golf event they had mentioned at dinner. I took the day off and drove out early to prepare the house, making sure every detail was perfect. The first 2 couples were pleasant but not seriously interested. The third, a pair of artists looking for studio space, loved the property but were clearly stretching their budget. The fourth and fifth were investors looking for vacation rentals, which made my heart sink at the thought of my grandmother's beloved home being turned into an Airbnb. The final appointment of the day was with Gabriel Jackson, a successful businessman in his mid-40s, who was looking for a private retreat away from his high-pressure job in the city. From the moment he walked through the door, I could see his genuine appreciation for the character of the house. This craftsmanship, he said, running his hand along the oak banister of the staircase. You don't see work like this anymore. As I showed him around, Gabriel asked thoughtful questions, not just about the practical aspects of the property, but about its history and character. When we reached the studio in the converted garage, he spent a long time looking at the space. My late wife was a painter, he explained quietly. She always wanted a studio with north light like this. There was something in his manner, a respect for the property and its significance, that reminded me of my own attachment to the place. When he asked if we could sit on the porch for a few minutes before he left, I agreed. This is a special property, Amanda, he said as we sat in the rocking chairs overlooking the orchard. I can tell it means a great deal to you. I hesitated, then found myself explaining the situation. Not the full family drama, but enough for him to understand that selling was a difficult decision for me. My grandmother left it to me, I said. I always thought I would keep it forever, but circumstances have changed. Gabriel nodded thoughtfully. If I were to make an offer, would it give you some peace to know that I would care for this place as you have? I wouldn't tear it down or subdivide the land. I just want somewhere quiet to read books and watch the seasons change. By the way, if you're still with me, make sure to hit subscribe. More unbelievable stories are coming. By the time he left, I had a feeling he would be making an offer. Sure enough, his agent called mine within 2 hours. The offer was clean, for the full asking price, with a request for a quick closing but flexible occupancy to give me time to say goodbye to the house properly. I accepted immediately. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of paperwork, inspections, and surreptitious packing. I told my family I was busy with a big listing at work, which was not entirely untrue. I avoided Sunday dinner, claiming client obligations. When my mother pressed about when they could reschedule their planned open house, I deflected with vague comments about still figuring things out. In truth, I was carefully removing personal items from the country house, focusing on things with sentimental rather than monetary value. My grandmother's handwritten recipe cards, the quilt she had made for my high school graduation, family photograph that couldn't be replaced. I worked with my attorney to ensure all the paperwork was impeccable, leaving no possible legal challenges. The property was unquestionably mine to sell. My name alone was on the deed since my grandmother's estate had been settled 5 years earlier. My parents had absolutely no legal claim to it whatsoever, despite their apparent belief that family assets were communal regardless of legal ownership. The closing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Gabriel and I met at the title company's office, both of us choosing to handle this in person rather than through representatives. As we signed the many documents, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Grief at letting go of this beloved place mingled with a profound satisfaction at taking control of the situation. "I have something for you," Gabriel said, after the final papers were signed and the keys officially handed over. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a business card. "This is my personal contact information. If you ever want to visit the property, just call. You will always be welcome." The gesture brought unexpected tears to my eyes. "Thank you," I managed, my voice thick. "That means more than you know." As I walked to my car, cashier's check in hand for a sum that exceeded even the most optimistic estimates my parents could have had, I felt a strange sense of both loss and liberation. I had transferred the fund to a new account at a different bank from my usual one, ensuring my parents would have no way to access or even know about the money. Now came the hard part, waiting for my family to discover what I had done. For 2 weeks after the closing, I managed to maintain the charade. I begged off Sunday dinners with claims of work emergencies. I responded to texts with just enough information to prevent suspicion, but not enough to reveal my actions. I knew this delicate balancing act could not last forever, but I needed time to prepare myself emotionally for the inevitable confrontation. What I had not anticipated was how quickly and dramatically that confrontation would unfold. It happened on a Saturday morning. I was at my city apartment, enjoying a rare leisurely breakfast and catching up on work emails, when my phone rang. It was my father, his tone uncharacteristically frantic. "Amanda, thank God you answered. There's someone in your house." My heart skipped a beat as the moment of truth arrived sooner than I expected. "What do you mean?" I asked, playing for time. "We drove out to the country house with Cassandra to take some measurements for the nursery furniture," he explained hurriedly. "I used my key to get in, and there was a man inside who claimed we were trespassing. He said he was calling the police." The reality of what had happened hit me all at once. My parents had taken Cassandra to my former house, let themselves in without permission using a key they should have returned long ago, and encountered Gabriel, the rightful owner, who naturally assumed they were intruders. "Stay there," I said, my voice remarkably calm, given the circumstances. "I'll be right out." "Hurry," he pleaded. "This man is threatening to have us arrested." I drove faster than I should have, reaching the country house in just over an hour. As I pulled up the gravel driveway, I saw a surreal tableau. A police car parked behind my parents' SUV. My mother sitting on the porch steps, looking utterly shell-shocked. My father gesticulating wildly to a patient-looking officer. Cassandra crying in the front seat of their vehicle. And Gabriel, standing calmly near the police car. As I got out of my car, all eyes turned to me. "Amanda," my father called out, relief evident in his voice. "Tell this officer this is your house and we have permission to be here." I walked slowly toward the group, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. This was it, the point of no return. "Actually," I said clearly, my voice resonating in the sudden quiet. "This is not my house anymore. I sold it 2 weeks ago to Mr. Jackson. He is the legal owner now." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Cassandra's sobs from the car momentarily ceased. My father's face went from relief to confusion to dawning horror in the span of seconds. "What are you talking about?" my mother finally managed, rising from the porch steps. "You can't have sold the house. We were going to sell it for Cassandra's apartment." The officer looked between us with growing understanding. He addressed my mother. "Are you saying you entered this property without the owner's permission?" No, my father interjected quickly. "This is a family misunderstanding. Amanda, tell them this is all a mistake." I looked at Gabriel, who gave me a small nod of support. "There is no mistake," I said firmly. I sold the house to Mr. Jackson 2 weeks ago. The sale has been recorded with the county. My parents and sister no longer have any right to access this property. That is impossible, my mother exclaimed. You can't have sold it without telling us. We had plans. Your plans, I corrected, my voice unwavering, not mine. You decided what would happen to my property without consulting me. You scheduled viewings without my permission. You kept a key without my knowledge. And today you broke into a house that no longer belongs to me. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. You had no right. I had every right. I counted. The house was mine. Legally, morally, in every way that matters. The officer, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding before him, cleared his throat. Based on what I'm hearing, it sounds like these folks, he gestured to my parents, entered the property illegally, albeit under a misunderstanding. Mr. Jackson, do you want to press charges for trespassing? Gabriel shook his head. No, that will not be necessary, as long as they leave now and understand they cannot return without an invitation. My father looked like he might argue further, but my mother tugged at his arm. Let us go, Robert. Not here. Not like this. As they turned toward their car, Cassandra finally emerged, her face streaked with tears and twisted with fury. How could you do this to me? She screamed, storming toward me. To my baby. You knew we needed this house. You needed a place to live, I replied, keeping my voice level. Not specifically this house. Not my house. You are so selfish. You have always been jealous of me, and now you are taking it out on my innocent child. My father had to physically guide her back to the car as she continued to shout accusations. Through the open window, I could hear her sobbing that I had ruined everything and never cared about family. As they drove away, the officer tipped his hat. I'll file a report about the incident, but since there's no desire to press charges, this should be the end of it. I would recommend changing the locks if you haven't already, sir. Already done, Gabriel assured him. Thank you for your help. When the police car had gone, Gabriel and I stood awkwardly in the driveway. I'm sorry about that, I said finally. I should have warned you something like this might happen. He shook his head. Family complications are rarely neat or predictable. Would you like to come in for a cup of coffee? It's still your porch, too, as far as I'm concerned. I looked at the house, the familiar lines of it now belonging to someone else. Thank you, but I should probably deal with the fallout from this. Rain check. Anytime, he said kindly. As I drove back to the city, my phone began buzzing incessantly with texts and calls from my parents and sister. I turned it off, needing space to process what had just happened. The confrontation had been every bit as awful as I had feared. Yet, underneath the stress and guilt was a surprising sense of relief. The truth was out. For better or worse, I had stood my ground. The weeks following what my mother dramatically termed the betrayal was some of the most difficult of my adult life. My family alternated between icy silence and explosive outbursts, with no middle ground for actual conversation. My father sent a formal-looking letter demanding I turn over the proceeds from the sale, claiming they were rightfully family funds intended for Cassandra's apartment. My mother left tearful voicemails about how I had broken her heart and destroyed the family. My sister blocked me on all social media and told mutual friends I had abandoned her in her time of need. Extended family members soon got involved, having heard wildly varying versions of the story. My Aunt Carol called to ask if it was true I had sold the family homestead out from under everyone. My cousin Patrick texted to say he thought I had done the right thing standing up for myself, but he was in the minority. The narrative being spread was that I, the selfish career woman, had callously disregarded the needs of my pregnant sister out of spite and greed. Few seemed interested in hearing my side, that the house had been legally mine alone, that I had maintained it for years with no help from anyone, that my family had attempted to appropriate it without my consent. There were moments I questioned my decision, wondering if I should have found some compromise. Perhaps I could have loaned Cassandra money for a down payment while keeping the house. Maybe I could have sold it and split the proceeds more equitably. The guilt would creep in during quiet moments, making me wonder if I had overreacted. Then I would remember the entitlement in their voices as they discussed selling my property as if I had no say in the matter. I would recall my sister's casual assumption that the bedroom where I kept my most precious possessions would become her baby's nursery. I would think of my grandmother's letter entrusting the house to me, specifically because she knew I would honor its history and significance. About a month after the confrontation, I received an unexpected message from Tyler, Cassandra's boyfriend and the father of her baby. "Can we meet for coffee? Just you and me. There are some things you should know." Curious and a bit wary, I agreed to meet him at a cafe halfway between my office and his workplace. When he arrived, he looked tired and stressed, the impending responsibility of fatherhood clearly weighing on him. "Thanks for coming," he said as he slid into the booth across from me. "Cassandra would kill me if she knew I was talking to you." "I appreciate you reaching out," I replied. "How is she doing, and the baby?" "They are both fine, health-wise, but—" He hesitated, stirring his coffee absently. "There are things about our situation that your family hasn't been honest about." Over the next hour, Tyler shared revelations that completely shifted my understanding of the entire scenario. Contrary to the impression my parents had given, he and Cassandra were not in dire financial straits. Tyler had a stable job in IT with good benefits. They could afford their apartment comfortably, and while it was small, it was in a good neighborhood with excellent schools nearby. "I never wanted your house," he admitted. I was shocked when Cassandra told me that was the plan. I kept saying we could save for our own place, but she insisted her parents had promised they would take care of everything. Moreover, Tyler revealed that he had been deeply uncomfortable with how I was being treated throughout the situation. The way they talked about you when you weren't around, like you owed them this massive favor and were being difficult for not immediately agreeing, it didn't sit right with me. Most surprisingly, Tyler confessed that he had been saving for a down payment on a modest condo for over a year. I wanted it to be a surprise for when the baby came, but now I don't know if that's what Cassandra even wants. She keeps talking about the house she lost as if it was already hers. This conversation prompted me to do some investigating of my own. Using my connections in real estate, I discovered my parents had refinanced their own home 6 months earlier, taking out considerable equity. They certainly had the means to help Cassandra with housing if they chose to, without involving my property at all. The pieces were falling into place. This had never been about Cassandra desperately needing housing. It had been about my parents wanting to appear generous and supportive without spending their own money. They had seen my inheritance as an easy solution, a family resource to be redistributed as they saw fit, rather than my personal property. When I brought this information to my friend Stephanie, she was unsurprised. "They have always treated you like the responsible one who should sacrifice for everyone else," she pointed out. "They probably never imagined you would stand up to them like this." The rift in my family deepened as weeks turned into months. Sunday dinners were a thing of the past. Holiday plans remained uncertain. My mother had begun telling family friends that I was going through something and they should pray for me to come back to my senses. My father took a more direct approach, sending increasingly stern emails about my obligations and duty to family. When I didn't respond as he wished, he attempted to involve mutual acquaintances as mediators, most of whom were wise enough to stay out of the conflict. Cassandra, now showing visibly in her pregnancy, weaponized her condition at every opportunity. Through mutual friends, I heard she was telling anyone who would listen that I was so jealous of her having a baby that I had sabotaged her chance at a proper family home. The most painful aspect was how little interest any of them showed, and not once did my parents acknowledge that perhaps they should have consulted me before making plans for my property. Not once did my sister express appreciation for the years I had spent maintaining the house they had all suddenly decided should be hers. It was as if my feelings, my autonomy, and my legal rights were simply inconvenient obstacles to their plans rather than valid considerations deserving of respect. Yet, as difficult as this period was, it was also strangely clarifying. For the first time, I was seeing my family dynamic with absolute clarity, unfiltered by the desire to keep peace at any cost. I was learning to set boundaries, even when they brought conflict. I was discovering that I could withstand disapproval without crumbling. In quiet moments, I sometimes thought of my grandmother and wondered what she would make of all this. The more I reflected, the more I became convinced that her decision to leave the house specifically to me, rather than to the family generally, had been deliberate. Perhaps she had recognized tendencies in my parents that I had been too close to see clearly. Never let anyone take advantage of your kind heart, she had told me. Not even family, especially family. Now I understood exactly what she had meant. 6 months passed with minimal contact between me and my immediate family. I threw myself into work, set new sales records at my firm, and slowly adjusted to weekends without my countryside retreat. I maintained occasional text communication with Tyler, who provided brief updates about Cassandra's pregnancy and their preparations for the baby. During this time, I used a portion of the money from the house sale to make some sound investments, working with a financial advisor to create a diverse portfolio. I also found a small but charming condo closer to the city, with a balcony large enough for container gardening. A poor substitute for the orchard I had loved, but better than nothing. Occasionally, I would receive a text from Gabriel with a photo of the country house, a new flower blooming in the garden, or fresh snow on the roof. True to his word, he had preserved the character of the place while making it his own. These messages were bittersweet, but ultimately comforting, knowing my grandmother's beloved home was in caring hands. My extended family began to reach out individually as the months went by. My Aunt Deborah, my mother's sister, invited me to lunch and actually listened to my version of events without judgment. My cousin Elizabeth included me in her wedding plans despite my mother's apparent objection. Slowly, I was rebuilding connections on new terms, based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Then came the news that Cassandra had given birth to a healthy baby girl, Lily. The announcement came not from my sister or parents, but from Tyler, who sent a simple text with a photo of their daughter. Thought you would want to know. You are not. The tiny face in that image stirred something in me. A reminder that despite everything, this innocent child was my blood relation, my niece. Whatever conflicts existed between the adults in the family, they were not her fault. After careful consideration, I made a decision that felt right. I set up a college fund for Lily using a portion of the proceeds from the house sale. I arranged it through a trust so that the money could only be used for educational expenses, not accessed by my sister or parents for other purposes. I sent Tyler the documentation and a small gift for the baby, a soft blanket similar to one my grandmother had made for me. His reply was immediate and grateful. This means a lot. Cassandra may not say it now, but someday she will appreciate what you have done. Whether that was true remained to be seen, but I had not done it for appreciation. I had done it because it aligned with my values and honored the legacy of generosity my grandmother had shown me. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected call from my mother. Her voice sounded older, more subdued than I remembered. Tyler told us what you did for Lily, she said after an awkward greeting. That was thoughtful of you. She is my niece, I replied simply. I want what is best for her. A long pause followed. Your father and I have been doing some thinking, she finally continued. Perhaps we didn't handle things as well as we could have with the house situation. It was not quite an apology, but for my mother, it was unprecedented. I remained silent, waiting to hear more. We miss you at Sunday dinners, she added. Maybe you could come this weekend. Meet Lily. The invitation hung between us, weighted with unspoken complications. I would like to meet her, I said carefully. But Mom, I need to know that you understand why I did what I did. I cannot just pretend nothing happened. Another long pause. I can't speak for your father or sister, she said finally. But I have come to see that we should have respected that the house was yours. We should have asked, not assumed. It was a small acknowledgement, but significant coming from a woman who had never admitted fault in my memory. Thank you for saying that, I replied, my voice softening. It means a lot. That Sunday dinner was tense, but civil. My father was stiffly polite, clearly uncomfortable, but making an effort. Cassandra was cold at first, but softened somewhat when she saw how naturally I took to holding Lily. The baby was beautiful, with Cassandra's blue eyes and Tyler's dark hair. A new life untainted by adult conflicts. The college fund was very generous, my father said as we ate dessert, the first direct reference to the situation all evening. Cassandra tells me it will cover 4 years at a good school. I wanted to do something meaningful for Lily, I explained, something that would make a difference in her future. We've been thinking, my mother interjected carefully, that perhaps we focus too much on the house itself rather than the bigger picture of family support. Your father and I have decided to help Tyler and Cassandra with a down payment on a condo they found, one they can afford the monthly payments on themselves. This was new information, and judging by Cassandra's expression, a very recent development. That sounds like a good solution, I replied. It is what we should have done from the beginning, my father admitted gruffly, the closest he would likely come to acknowledging his error. As the evening progressed, I found myself sharing a quiet moment with Cassandra on the porch while she rocked Lily to sleep. I was really angry at you, she said softly, not looking at me. I felt like you chose a house over me and my baby. That was never the choice, I replied. I felt like my autonomy, my right to make decisions about my own property, was being completely disregarded. Like what I wanted didn't matter. She was silent for a moment. I guess I never thought about it from your perspective. Mom and Dad always made it sound like the house was kind of a family asset, and since I needed it more than you. But that was never theirs to decide, I pointed out gently. Just like I would never presume to make decisions about your life or property without consulting you. She nodded slowly, looking down at her sleeping daughter. Motherhood is making me think differently about a lot of things, about boundaries and respect. I want Lily to grow up knowing her opinions matter, that no one has the right to make decisions for her without her consent. That sounds like excellent parenting, I said, genuinely impressed by this glimpse of maturity from my sister. I can't promise Mom and Dad will ever fully understand what they did wrong, she continued. They are pretty set in their ways. But I think I do now. And I'm sorry, Amanda, not for wanting a good home for my baby, but for assuming I was entitled to yours. Her apology, far more direct than my mother's, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Thank you for saying that, I whispered. It means more than you know. In the months that followed, our family began a slow, sometimes awkward healing process. Sunday dinners resumed, though now they often took place at my new condo or at Tyler and Cassandra's apartment. My parents never fully acknowledged the extent of their overstepping, but they made efforts to show respect for my boundaries in other ways. I maintained my friendship with Gabriel, occasionally accepting his invitation to visit the country house. It was different now, seeing it as a guest rather than an owner, but there was healing in that, too. A reminder that letting go did not have to mean losing everything. As Lily grew from newborn to infant to curious crawler, she became a bridge between previously fractured relationships. It was impossible to hold grudges while watching her discover the world with wide-eyed wonder. Through her, I found a new connection to my sister, a shared investment in the future that transcended past conflicts. My grandmother had been right all along. Family was important, vital even, but healthy family relationships required respect, boundaries, and the courage to stand firm when those boundaries were crossed. The house she had left me had ultimately taught me that lesson in unexpected ways. In the end, I did not regret selling the country house. What I had gained, painful though the process had been, was something more valuable. The knowledge that I could stand up for myself, even against those I loved most, and emerge stronger on the other side. Family love, I had learned, should never require the sacrifice of your self-respect. True family support goes both ways, honoring each person's autonomy while offering genuine help. It took a crisis to teach us all that lesson, but some lessons are worth the difficult path to understanding. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult decision that put you at odds with family members? How did you handle it? Was there eventual healing or understanding? Please share your experiences in the comments below. And if you found value in my story, please like, subscribe, and share with others who might be struggling with family boundaries. Thank you for listening.